In example 2, we're going to start evaluating logs. And the first thing I want you to remember always is that a logarithm is just an exponent. So anytime you're evaluating a log, you are looking for an exponent. So super important to realize that. So if we look at letter A, we have the log base 3 of 81 is equal to something. So what we want to do to solve this is we're going to change it back to exponential form, just like we did in example 1. The base of our log is 3, so we have 3 raised to something. It has to be equal to 81. So we're thinking 3 raised to what power? What's my exponent? Will give me 81, and that would be 4. So the log base 3 of 81 is 4. In part B, I have my base is 8, so 8 raised to something has to equal the square root of 8. Now I can rewrite the square root of 8, and I can say 8 raised to something has to equal 8. The square root is the same as raising something to the 1/2. So 8 to something is equal to 8 to the 1/2. Well, what does that something have to be? 1/2. So the log base 8 of square root of 8 is 1/2. If I take a look at part C, my base is 9, and I'm thinking 9 raised to something has to equal 1 over 81. Now, in order to get a whole number base to be a fraction, I need a negative exponent. So that's the case every single time. You might want to write that down. Anytime you go from a nice whole number to a fraction, your base or your exponent must be negative. So how I like to do it is I think to myself, 9 raised to what power will be 81? And that's 2. So if I want to move it down to the bottom, I need a negative 2. So the log base 9 of 1 over 81 is negative 2. So if you think about that, 9 to the negative 2, using your rules of exponents, that negative exponent moves the 9 to the bottom as 1 over 9 squared, which is 1 over 81. So just another reminder, if you go from a whole number to a fraction, your exponent is going to be negative. If we look at letter D, we have the log base 5 of 125. So our base here is 5, and we're thinking 5 to what power is going to give us 125. So 5 to what power is 125 is what you need to figure out. And 5 to the third, which means 3 would be our answer. Our answers are always an exponent. In part E, we have the log of 100. Now remember, if there's no base written here, it's understood that that's a base of 10. So we're thinking 10 raised to what power is equal to 100. So 10 to the second power is 100, which means our answer here is 2. In letter F, we have a base of 3. So 3 raised to what power will give me the 4th root of 3. So just like in letter B, when we rewrote the square root of 1, or square root of 8 as 8 to the 1/2, we can do the same thing here. This can be rewritten as the following. We have 3 to something equal to 3. The number here, this 3 is being raised to the first power. That goes to the top of our fraction and our exponent, and the root that we're taking is the denominator. So this is the same as saying 3 to the 1/4. So if we're thinking 3 to something is 3 to the 1/4, this question mark has to be a 4th. So this would equal 1/4. If I take a look at letter G, I have the natural logs. Remember the ln, this has a base of e right here that's not written in there. So I'm thinking e to what power is going to give me e to the 4th. Okay, so this is my base. That e is the base. This whole thing, this e to the 4th, that's right here. That's what I want to get. what exponent will give me that? Well, if we look here, it would have to be 4. So this is equal to 4. In letter H, I have the natural log of the 5th root. So remember this natural log, there's an e there for my base. So I'm thinking e to what power is going to give me e. And then remember when I'm trying to take my roots and put them as exponents, the number that's here is the numerator and the root is the denominator. So this would become 3 over 5. So if I have e to something is e to the 3/5, that something has to be 3/5. And the last one I'm going to do with you together, before you do a couple on your own, is the natural log of e. So if I have the natural log of e, remember this base here is e. So then what I want to do is I'm taking e to some power has to be e. Well, if this e doesn't have an exponent, it's understood that that exponent is 1. So I'm thinking e to what power is e to the 1st, and that would just be 1. Now I would like you to go down to the try this. There are 3 of these that I want you to try on your own. If you have questions as you're working through it or questions from above, please call me over so I can explain it to you a little bit further and help you figure that out. Most of these problems that you'll get on your test will be without a calculator, so you do have to be able to know most of your numbers to the 2nd, 3rd power in your head. If I take a look at, pause it and then unpause it when you're ready to check your answer. If you did number 1 correctly, you should have gotten an answer of 2. If you did 2 correctly, you would get -3. And if you did 3 correctly, you should get 0. Remember, anything to the 0 power is equal to 1. If you have questions, please let me know.